Something fascinating and extraordinary has happened this month in the global defense arms race between the US and China. And I'll tell you all about it and why it has upset the balance of the world. But first, remember, like, share, subscribe, and sign up for our membership and all of those other things. All right, so this is what has happened. When Donald Trump took over as the President of the United States for the second time, his first major defense announcement was something called a Golden Dome. Now, this was a $175 billion plan that Donald Trump had come up with. He described it as a shield of peace. And it was meant to be an all-encompassing global shield, or sort of next-generation missile defense system that would cover up or protect the United States and all of its allies. It was inspired by Israel's Iron Dome, which we talked about a lot. It successfully intercepted thousands of short-range rockets from 2011 onwards. Trump's vision was more ambitious. It was not a regional shield or a local shield. It was a global shield. It would cover the whole planet. He wanted to create a dome, or he wants to create a dome that can track and intercept any missile of any kind, short range, long range, intercontinental, hypersonic, anywhere in the world through this one dome. Now, in March this year, he made an address to Congress, to US Congress, and he said this missile shield will make America the most secure nation in the history of the world. 2 months later, the Golden Dome Initiative, which is what it's being called, in May this year, has officially been launched, and that means that it is now in the blueprint stage. So they're debating where the money is going to come from, they're debating the architecture and all of the technology it will take. That's the stage that the Golden Dome is at right now. October, China has quietly announced that it has already got a working prototype of a global missile defense network that it has already developed. Its Nanjing Research Institute has come up with what it's calling a distributed early warning detection data platform, which can apparently, according to China, track 1,000 incoming missiles all at once, and it will pull data from satellites, radars, ships, ground sensors, analyze all of it real time using AI, and make decisions apparently faster than any human command center could possibly do. China is calling it the scientists in China are calling it the global missile defense brain, and that's the shocker. So the United States, which spends more on defense than the remaining 10 countries combined after that, is still debating its own design. Its program is on the drawing board, and the architecture and the funding, like I said, is subject for congressional debate right now. It could take a decade before any of this becomes operational. China already has a prototype in comparison to America's idea and vision, and that changes everything, because for the first time in modern history as we know it, the United States is on the back foot when it comes to a tech race, and that redefines global security altogether. This isn't about one missile system, it's about a shift in power, a reversal of roles of who is the world's most powerful military, which up until now, without debate, belonged to the United States. That question mark at all is going to make Donald Trump very unhappy. So right now, China has a head start with a functioning AI prototype. America still has a bigger playbook because it's got tested weapons, it's got global infrastructure, it's got the money to spend. But the real question is, which dome is more sophisticated? Now, the nation that can master the combination of AI and space and missile defense first, whoever does that will control the skies and possibly the balance of power on Earth as well. So we know that China has a working prototype. Based on what China has actually said, we know that the US has a plan, but which of these two will actually be most successful is something we'll have to watch out for. Now, that is just the dome on both sides, or the defense sort of shield on both sides. But let's take a look at the other defense sort of battle between the US and China right now. For decades, like I said, US has been the undisputed leader, but according to the US Department of Defense, the DoD's 2024, they released a report called China Military Power Report. It said, the US's report said, Beijing now has the world's largest navy in terms of number of ships, although the US still has the largest tonnage in terms of the ships that it has. And Beijing is now expanding its nuclear arsenal at the fastest rate globally, developing cutting-edge systems to rival and in some cases also outpace the US. Like I said, this is a DoD report from the US. China is also heavily investing in modernizing its forces, bringing in AI, advanced radar, hypersonic missiles, and space-based centers. Now, in terms of the nuclear and missile race, China's nuclear stockpile has more than doubled since 2020. It was 250 nuclear warheads. It now has more than 600. This is according to the Federation of American Scientists. The same report also says that by 2030, China could have 1,000 nuclear warheads, and Beijing is also building 3 new intercontinental ballistic missile silo fields capable of housing 300 missiles. This is according to the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists released this year. So it is building apparently also something called a Guam killer that can strike US military bases in the Pacific and can carry either conventional or nuclear warheads. And meanwhile, the United States' own nuclear modernization program has faced delays and cost overruns. In fact, there was a report in Time magazine this year that said, and I'm quoting, the US is losing its nuclear edge because its warheads are aging, its outdated command systems, and its political gridlock is slowing down its upgrades. This is Time magazine, September this year. Now, under the seas, and we talked about the Navy ships, but under the seas, Beijing's submarine fleet is expanding rapidly as well. It's developing a new nuclear-powered vessel that can stay underwater for months on end, challenging America's Pacific dominance. This is according to the Wall Street Journal in July this year. And in space, as we know, China has gone one step further with its entire dome program. The striking differences in the two superpowers is how they're using AI in warfare. Now, apparently, China's military-industrial complex has aggressively integrated AI into its decision-making, its targeting, and its threat analysis. Its short-range air defense system can detect, prioritize, and destroy drones using AI-based coordination. The United States, on the other hand, is still relying heavily on older layered systems like the Patriot, the THAAD, and the Aegis, each built decades ago and managed separately. So these systems don't talk to each other right now. Trump's Golden Dome aimed to unify them under an AI-driven command, but like I said, that remains mostly still on paper. Now, I've told you what the two of them are doing. We have to take a step, just a minute, to take a look at what happens to India and what this means for us as India in all of this. Where does India stand in the global arms race? In August this year, our Prime Minister announced a mission Sudarshan Chakra. It was an ambitious plan to build a nationwide missile defense shield by 2035. Now, he said it would protect every citizen and every critical site, so strategic installations, hospitals, and places of faith. And this is August this year, the announcement was made. So India has already built a foundation for this. Now, you'll remember our Akashteer system that was developed jointly by the DRDO, by ISRO, and by BEL, or Bharat Electronic System. It integrates radar, sensor, and AI to intercept aerial threats. Now, in May, during Operation Sindoor, it successfully intercepted a wave of Pakistani drones and missiles along the western border, preventing serious damage. But in order to build it nationwide, comparable to what US or China is currently on or discussing, we will require massive investments, advanced research, and global partnerships as well to share research. As the US and China expand their space-based interception and hypersonic defense, India will now have to work more on being more self-reliant, or actually finding the research from its frameworks like the Quad, for example. We're going to have to now rely more and more on institutes like ISRO. Thankfully for us, ISRO is really ahead in its game, and we are really qualified to be able to do this, but we're going to need a lot more planning, a lot more investment, a lot more push. But if we stop for a second and look at where this leaves the geopolitics, remember, 20th century nations were building bombs to destroy each other. Apparently, in the 21st century, they're building domes to protect themselves. But like war theory will tell you, every stronger shield will invite a stronger sword. So now if countries are building stronger defense systems, every enemy is going to invest in inviting or in coming up with a more sophisticated attack. For India, this means that we now have to figure out how to become more independent. If China's distributed early warning system matures quickly, Beijing will have a massive edge when it comes to deterrence, which means it could possibly, arguably, become more confident on the line of actual control, as we have seen, or even in the Indian Ocean. And these are the two areas where India and China sort of face each other. we will have to build our next layer of defense, which is AI driven national defense, so that we can defend our borders as well. Now, that's the mission Chakra, Sudarshan Chakra, which it's already meant to be. But also in terms of geopoliticals, remember, India never takes sides. India has always decided on a balance, which means that we will have to build partnerships of intelligence and technology through the Quad with countries like Japan, with countries like France, countries like Israel also, maybe, if that's something that India is open to doing, keeping strategic autonomy to make its own calls at the same time. Because here's the interesting thing. If everybody's talking about AI and everybody's talking about using space, then the future is going to be about who owns the data, who controls the radars, who controls the satellites, and what you do when the satellite goes dark, if it does go dark. So a country like India, which sits between nuclear neighbors, which is a nuclear power itself, and two global powers, actually keeping our sovereignty will actually become everything. So this, in this particular case, arguably being neutral means running your own race and not actually sitting on the sidelines. So building our own terms and our own technology. This is where India stands right now. But on the larger scheme of things, if we look at where the globe is, Donald Trump is not going to be happy with the pace at which China is announcing its progress. How is he going to react to that, and what is that reaction going to be? Leave me a comment in the comment section of what you think this big change is going to mean and how it's going to play out.